so easy to manipulate, and they have few guardrails. I think the last time I was in this studio, I was talking about our report on fake image factories. So we tested a variety of AI image tools. We found that they generated photorealistic, convincing election disinformation in 41% of tests, voting-related disinformation in 59% of tests, and misleading election content was produced by Midjourney, the leading image generator, in 65% of tests. And what we said was, we actually need a non-proliferation treaty in politics. We need people to agree that we will not use these, because when it can be abused, it will be. And if it's so easy, in fact, if it's almost an incentive to use it, the abuse is so easy, is it genuinely really useful, or is it just what they intended their platform to be used for? You didn't put anyone on the front desk, you didn't have any cameras, would you be surprised if you had no candy at the end of the day? Of course you wouldn't. It's your fault. You know, it's your fault for failing to actually put into place the guardrails to make sure that these systems aren't abused, and they have been, and they increasingly will be. And what worries me is, of course, that we've already seen the degradation of our politics. We've seen the normalization of performative politics, and that's, again, in part driven by our information ecosystem, because an algorithmic environment that favors extreme, emotionally effective disinformation rather than good information shifts power towards anyone that can maximize attention. And we've seen that sort of slowly destroy our politics, turn it away from seriousness into performance. But now we see an incentive to lie in the most egregious way possible, to literally rewrite reality using generative AI platforms.
We're talking to Imran Ahmed. He's the founder of the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Also with us, Tiffany Shu, a technology reporter for the New York Times, and Inga Trotek, research professor at Florida International University. We're also hearing from lots of you. List one of you emails. It's easy to navigate. I go to the source and I only follow reporters I know and trust. Another of you asks, does 1A print or admit to prior AI deceptions? Now, we do have a policy on AI, and just when we get it wrong, we report on AI deceptions that reach the public, but we only rely on reputable reporters and outlets. Tiffany, I want to return to how the administration is using memes to communicate with the public. And what did you see during the release of the Epstein files, those files that you've seen so far?
So the DOJ had an interesting note in its release about the Epstein files, where it said, just be aware that these files should not be treated as just evidence in and of themselves. Right? There are unsubstantiated tips, and there's a lot of fake imagery in it, and fake emails in there as well. And that has thrown a wrench into the public's understanding of what's in this tranche of documentation, because you have people who are treating the Epstein files release as a sort of game. They're going in and they're picking and choosing pieces of information that they're finding, imagery that they're finding, and they're mashing it together into conspiracy theories and rumors. And a lot of the foundation of what's forming those conspiracy theories is either not true or it's misleading. And then on top of that, outside of what's in that tranche of files, social media is full of things that people have created using artificial intelligence as if it was in that tranche, but it's not. And so you have the government's official release of documents, which is not reliable on its own, and then layered on top of that, you have folks on social media who are further muddling the information environment by creating things that never existed. And so we're seeing accusations against people like Zoran Mavroff, the New York mayor, that when he was a kid, he and his mom hung out with Epstein. That's a rumor that stems from an artificially generated image.
Paired with a parallel effort from House Republicans to hold Donald Trump's political adversaries in front of Congress. So real-world politics paired with online politics creates disinformation around people in the Epstein files. There's been a definite effort there. Inga, if we're talking about politics and social media, we have to talk about TikTok. It has a new owner. There was a long debate back and forth over Chinese ownership, the parent company that owns TikTok. That's now, through a deal, been brought domestically, as we know. How significant is TikTok to our political discourse now, and how is it operating post-deal?
And TikTok has been and still is extremely important for politics in the US, especially for certain age generations. I was listening earlier to one of your listeners who chimed in, and basically what she said was, I'm not that much on social media at all anymore. I look at print news, etc., because I'm so disheartened by what I'm seeing online. I don't know anymore what's fake, what is not, and there's so much hate out there. And this is what I find is the biggest issue right now, is we're getting, the balance is off. Like, we're not getting it right, that AI and other technologies are employed for the public good, and that we're reigning in the bad. We need to find this balance also with TikTok.
We're speaking to Inga Trottek, a research professor at Florida International University. Also with us, Tiffany Shu. She's a technology reporter for the New York Times, and Imran Ahmed, the founder of the Center for Countering Digital Hate. And we're hearing from you. John in Maryland emails, I'm a healthcare worker. More and more I have to try to dispel wrong and often harmful information that patients find through AI, influencers, and even more disturbing from U.S. government websites. Politics and social media have erased people's trust in those of us who are educated professionals. And Susanna in South Carolina emails, I am definitely worried about AI-generated misinformation influencing elections. That's why I follow experts like Brian Krebs, who is a security reporter, and 404 Media, which was founded by tech journalists, so that I'm aware of nefarious bot campaigns. Reading their content makes me more skeptical, which I think is good. Still to come, we can learn about the effect of misinformation on democracy and elections. That's just ahead. Romance scams are evolving. They aren't just bilking people out of their life savings anymore. Scammers are branching out, making victims accomplices in a roster of crimes, from email scams and check fraud to money laundering. That's next hour on 1AM.
Center for the Humanities present American Myth, the University of Tulsa student-led exhibit, which presents a deep dive on American myths, the stories that have shaped America and its people, indigenous stories, America's decline, its history. The exhibit runs February 6th through
with family videos and photos into memories that can be shared with generations to come. More at legacybox.com. Casual One, offering writing and entertainment copies. What's in details at Amazon.com. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org. Back to our conversation in a moment, but first we'd love your help with an upcoming show.
Some of the country's most fierce political battles are happening in school board races. Since 2021, these have been dominated by culture war conversations like trans students' access to bathrooms and sports, book bans, and diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. Now, in politically mixed communities across the country, progressive candidates are winning school board elections, unseating more conservative movements, who until recently were seeing higher levels of success. Next week, we explore the role of school boards in our nation's democracy and what a shift in local politics means for students and parents. And we want to hear from you. If you've ever run for a school board or been part of one, what issues were most important to you and why? Leave a voicemail at 855-236-1212. If you're a parent of a school-age child, what issues do you wish your local school board would focus on? That's 855-236-1212. Or leave a message using our app, 1A Vox Pop, and we'll get to your thoughts and questions tomorrow. Now back to our conversation about how social media is affecting our democracy with Imran Ahmed. He's the founder and CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate. It's a nonprofit that works to stop the spread of online hate and disinformation. Also with us, Tiffany Shu, a technology reporter for the New York Times, covering the information ecosystem, foreign influence, and disinformation, and Inga Trottek, a research professor focused on political impacts of emerging technologies at Florida International University. And as always on Mondays, 1A's Todd Zwillig is with us too.
Well, excuse me, Imran, in December, the Trump administration placed you and 5 other people combating online misinformation on a visa ban. A judge blocked that order from the administration, blocked them from detaining or deporting you. What was the reason behind that move against you, and how would you characterize the administration's attitude toward free speech and online disinformation and lies right now?
Yeah, I mean, so on December 23rd, actually, 2 days before Christmas, someone texted me a tweet in which the State Department announced that it was issuing sanctions against 5 European individuals for what it said was censorship, and in particular, they were aggrieved at the fine that was placed on Elon Musk's platform, the one formerly known as Twitter, for failing to abide by the European Commission's transparency regulations. Now let's leave aside for the moment the insanity of saying that a fine for failing to abide by transparency rules is an act of censorship, which is clearly ridiculous. The idea of then seeking to solve censorship by telling someone that you are deporting them for their advocacy is, again, bananas, because that is actually the definition of censorship itself. And, you know, this happened before Christmas. I'm married. My wife is, you know, she's not just American, she's from Oklahoma, so she's American. We have a daughter. We're having our second daughter in a few weeks. And I've built a family life here. I have paid my taxes. I've been a good, law-abiding citizen.
Where do you think this order came from? Why did the Trump administration choose you?
Let me make it simple for you. It's big money, it's big tech, and it's utterly corrupting impact on government that's been going on for some years now. And it's not just the United States where they seek to change the way that government works. They seek to influence government in the most autocratic, in the most tyrannical, in the most anti-constitutional ways. The idea that Elon Musk can say, I hate the way that this man speaks, and so therefore I want to punish him. Now, that might sound like that might sound like a conspiracy theory, apart from the fact that he's already tried to sue us for our speech. And a court found that he was trying to violate our First Amendment's rights and awarded us an anti-slap ruling, which is a kind of ruling which says, basically, this is a classic example of a rich man trying to use lawfare to hurt someone less powerful, less wealthy than them. And I think we're seeing the same thing happen here again. And it is extraordinary, given the impact that social media platforms, the negative impact that social media platforms are already having on our democracy at a systemic level, and the way that they're designed, in the way that they corrupt our information ecosystem. But now they're taking it that one step further, and they're seeking to actually be allowed to carry out unconstitutional acts.
We got this email from Christopher who says, I'm a commissioner in Bay City, Michigan. I'm concerned about how social media warps the reality of politicians and decision makers. Before even considering the AI bot swarms, we have the mundane reality that local officials are influenced by so much misinformation and disinformation pushed by non-constituents. I'd love to hear from everybody on that, because this is an aspect of the conversation we didn't include. And Tiffany, what do you think? So that it's not so much about trying to influence voters, it's the politicians themselves being influenced by what they see online.
Yeah, so I have two good examples on this. During the hurricanes, I want to say in North Carolina last year, there was a local Republican official, if I'm remembering correctly, who posted an image of a child on a raft with a dog. And she said something to the effect of, like, look at this poor child. And she was told on social media by many other users, that's an AI generated image. That's not real. And her response was very peculiar. She said, I don't really care where it came from. It's the feeling of it. Like, it makes me feel heartbreak. And this is a sentiment that we're hearing all over the place now, which is people seem to recognize that AI exists. They know that what they're seeing might be AI generated, but they don't really care because they feel something from that image, or they look at the image and they see, and they say, well, this could have happened. So in their worldview, if that image fits, then that image is legit. The other example is that, again, I'm not completely sure if this was Canada. I think it was in some small municipality in Canada. There were politicians running in some local race against each other, and one accused the other of something, and the other said, no, that was AI generated. That proof that you have is not real. And it's hard to say who's right, because now we have a phenomenon that's called the liar's dividend, in which AI is being used by people to avoid accountability, because all they have to say when presented by evidence is that's not true. That's something that was digitally created.
Imran, briefly?
I mean, it's really interesting, because what we're talking about there is something in our psychology called confirmation bias, which is our need as human beings to seek out and favor information that aligns with our pre-existing beliefs. And it actually gives us psychological comfort when we encounter content that validates our worldview, and it makes us uncomfortable. It hurts when we're confronted with dissonant information. And the reality is that we need dissonant information. Actually, that's how we progress our understanding of the world, is these clash of ideas. And social media is, we hear all these people in American politics and culture going on about snowflakes this and how, there's safe spaces. Social media is, ironically, the ultimate snowflake safe space, because what it does is validates your worldview constantly by giving you information.
Too.
It silos you and then emotionally affects you, and that's why we're seeing this mega polarization and this increasingly vociferous, this kind of like completely fragmented realities that America today exists in. And of course, politicians seek to exploit it. Why wouldn't you? It's like, I always go back to this. If it can